Hey, welcome, Mental Health Warriors. Thanks for tuning in today. It's going to be a very exciting show. I got some big news. I've been, kind of dropping hints all week about it. If you watched the show last week, then you know about kind of what I'm going to talk about when I was on Veterans Trash Talk, the Saturday show. But super excited about it. So I'll go ahead and jump right into it. So I'm going to announce it right now that the Mental Health Warrior podcast is now going to be on Reese Across America Radio on Fridays at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern. You can find Reese Across America Radio on iHeartRadio app, the Audacity app, and the TuneIn app. Be sure to search for Reese Across America and then the Mental Health Warrior. So I'm super excited about that. It's very humbling to me. I'm excited over the fact that I'm going to have a wider audience to talk to. Um, the radio program is going to be a little bit different than my show. My show now, as you guys know, is live on Thursdays. So the show on Fridays is going to be a mix of live shows that you see here, and then also some past shows. That way the audience can get caught up on some of the past podcasts on that. And actually the one on Friday, they're going to show this Friday, February 3rd, is actually going to be the very first podcast I did last year. And so with that, I'm going to kind of flow that into what I think we should talk about, with their radio program and everything. But I'm super excited. That's Reese Across America on Fridays at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 10 p.m. And you can find that on the iHeart app, the Audacity app, and the TuneIn app. And just search for Reese Across America Radio. So super excited about that. There'll be lots of postings going on my social media and things like that. And once again, you can follow me on all my social media at CliffordBallman.com. You can just search that on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and you can find me fairly easy. It's all the same word. Or you can go to my website at CliffordBallman.com. And from there, you can find out what's going on, a little bit more about my story. And so I'm super excited about that. So thanks for everybody tuning in. Thanks for my new listeners who's going to be listening for this on a couple weeks from now on Friday on Reese Across America Radio. So appreciate all the support that everybody has given me. For the last couple of weeks now, I've been talking about, mental pain and stuff like that. And one thing I started doing, and you follow me on Facebook, is I started doing the Mental Health Minute. And it's just little 1-minute videos I do just to kind of, help everybody out there, give them a little quick minute of things that I think, that just comes to me that day that I think maybe we should talk about. And I think it's kind of important. I think, this week I'm going to talk a little bit more because, I've been diving into the mental health pain and not so much the physical pain. We talked about that where, we can all kind of deal with, the physical pain, or our brains is kind of geared that way. But mental pain, I talk about, pain of having depression or, PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome, or maybe you have a TBI from an injury that you occurred either in a traffic accident or a work-related accident, or if you had deployed or was in Iraq, or just some type of accident where you received that TBI, traumatic brain injury, and how that can affect your life. And the reason I talk about that is because it personally affects me. It's something that I've had to deal with, both with having post-traumatic stress syndrome, being a suicide survivor, and then having a TBI, and then from my TBI having ADHD that's related to that. And so, as you go through that path and that journey, it's tough. And sometimes the road's straight and narrow, and sometimes it turns left and right. And so really that's what I'm doing here with the Mental Health Warrior, with the podcast, and now with the radio show on Reads Across America, is really try to help people like me or others that are similar to maybe understand that it's okay not to be okay. It's okay that you feel that way, and it's okay that sometimes days don't go like you should. That's what my mental health minute was today. Was talking about forgiveness, and it's forgiveness is a tough thing, right? It's hard to forgive somebody that has wronged you, right? Anybody would agree to that. Or somebody that you have perceived has wronged you, whether they have or not. That's tough, right? It was hard for me. I'm a very type A person, and I would say that I'm completely different the way I am now than what I was in my early, teen years and stuff, where I did a lot of things that were probably questionable. We all did as kids. But it's interesting how you think something so simple, but it can be hard, right? It's like with mental health pain, like I was talking about. last week, where I really dove into shame and being ashamed and asking for help and getting help. But then somebody put a comment on Facebook talking about pride. And so if you listen to the podcast last week, I really talked about how pride is a really big factor in standing in the way of somebody asking for help or going for help. And, I also dove in the fact that maybe culturally wise, family or way you were raised, for me, it was hard when I was going through my issues and problems, just the way that I was raised as a kid is to ask for help because it was something that I've never saw my family did or my father did or anything like that. And so going in, not there was anything against it. It was just something that never came up. It, we didn't know anybody that had mental health issues or were seeing a psychiatrist, psychologist or something like that. So it was foreign to me. It was something I didn't know about. And so when you start having issues and problems and you're not familiar with that type of thing, it can also, make you a little apprehensive about going in and receiving that counseling and getting the counseling that you need. I know when I first went into counseling, after I was command directed to go into counseling, I wasn't in my right headspace. And I think really some of that was just fear of the unknown, fear of my career, and fear of really not understanding, what that meant at that time and how they could help. Sadly, it took my suicide attempt for me to realize that, counseling can be very helpful and can be a good tool that you can have in your toolbox. And not that you need to go to counseling all the time. I don't go to counseling all the time. As a matter of fact, I kind of try to avoid it. And the reasons I try to avoid it, because for one, I've seen a lot of psychiatrists and psychologists throughout my years, licensed clinical social workers, MFLACs, military family life counselors. And, if I'm just having an issue like some anxiety or something like that going on, and of course I have a life coach now that I talk to if things get really bad. But if I go back into counseling to see a psychiatrist, psychologist, they really want to spend a lot of time focusing on my suicide attempt and things like that. And that part of my life's in the past. I still talk about that. I think it's important to talk about that. I think it's important for me to talk about what I was feeling in those thoughts with PTSD and how it drove me to not want to live anymore. And those are really good topics. But that Cliff Bauman back then is not the same Cliff Bauman that I am now. And so, for me to go back into counseling to relive something that to me is not a factor in my life at this moment or at that time, or the reason why I'm entering counsel really is really stressful for me. And it's something that to me, it just seems to be like a waste of time. But there's other avenues. Like I said, you can find a life coach and other people where you can talk to where you can just kind of dive right into what's bothering you and not have to go back and relive everything that's not really the reason why you're there. And so, I encourage people who, having issues or problems, or like I say all the time, because, I'm a big car guy and I have, the Mustang, which is on my t-shirt, the Mental Health Warrior t-shirt. We need a tune up sometimes. And sometimes you just need to go in and help refocus. I've tried yoga and I've enjoyed yoga. I'm up to doing yoga 3 times a week, but I really like how yoga helps me with my headspace, right? When you have ADHD related to TBI, sometimes your headspace gets all jumbled and you can't seem to get things done. You can't seem to get on task. Like tonight for the podcast. I mean, we were getting ready to go, and I was texting Chris earlier, and he was ready to go, and then he's like, "Hey, are we having the show tonight?" It completely slipped my mind, and it's something I always did, but I was doing a bunch of other tasks and just got, my mind just got enthralled with that. So that's just one of the things with ADHD, and sometimes I'm pretty good about writing stuff down so I don't forget. But today was just, I don't know. Today was just a weird day for me. I don't know why. My headspace just wasn't there today. And some days are like that. Some days you're really focused and you're on it. And some days, man, you just can't get there. And that was me today. I went downstairs and I did my mental health minute today, and I did my workout, and I was about, I don't know, 45 minutes into my workout, and I just couldn't do it. I don't know if I'm just tired because I did double workouts last night, or I've had hard workouts this week. But my body was like, nah, we're not going to work out anymore. You're done. So I just quit. I didn't force it. So I just went back upstairs and and logged on to Destiny and played some Iron Banner and was able to get finally reach level 1600, which if we play Destiny 2, that's a hard level to get to. So I'm super excited about that. So once again, if you like to play video games with me, it's Libby013. I do enjoy playing. It's kind of a way that I can get out of my space and kind to not think about things, and it's really relaxing to me. And I think most people who play video games can attest to that. And I have a couple of guys who I don't know, but I play with. That's a lot of fun, and they're a lot higher level, and we just have a good time with it. But to get back to forgiveness, so I got on a tangent there, but to forgive somebody who you think that has wronged you or done you in a bad way is hard. But sometimes I think forgiving others is a lot easier than forgiving yourself. And I can attest to the fact that, and I've talked about this before, some of the things that we've done in our past, whether we meant to do it or if it was by accident or a situation or something like that, it's hard to forgive yourself and leave it in the past, right? Because it always likes to creep in. I talk about, how PTSD is like the sniper in the background, just like for that one play on the video game that's really good, that always hides out in the corner when you're doing a mission, just snipes you when you come run around the corner. But it's just waiting for you to be kind of tired. Maybe your headspace isn't right, like mine was today. And it just kind of creeps in. But learning to forgive yourself over things that happened that might have not been in your control, maybe was in your control. Maybe you had a relationship that went bad. And whether that's a relationship that you have with your wife, with your girlfriend, with your mom, with your family, with friends, or whatever relationships, however you want to define it, forgiving yourself or looking inward to yourself to see, why things occurred the way they occurred is hard to do. It's not easy to do. And I have struggled with that, and I continue to struggle with that today. I talk about, when I was a young kid growing up in Missouri, I used to run around and fight a lot. It's just the things that we did. And, I remember that I got in a fight with this one kid. He was older and bigger than me is, and the fight, I'm not going to go into details about the fight, but let's just say that it didn't bode well for him, and he wound up being in the hospital for a while. And I had a hard time with that as I got older, because I felt bad about, although I was defending myself, that I took a little bit too far. And so it took me a lot of years to kind of get over that and see that. And I think anybody who's been in that situation probably will understand that. But I think it's important to learn to forgive yourself and not just, people always say, leave the past in the past, right? Leave it in the past. It's in the past. Well, you can't leave it in the past, especially if it's from a traumatic event. It's always going to creep back in or always be in the back of your mind. But I think you have to learn how to deal with the past, right? But don't spend a lot of time dwelling on the past. It's okay to learn from the past, right? We learn from our past mistakes, and that way we don't deem to repeat them. If you don't learn from your past mistakes, then we all know that you're deemed to repeat it. That's history, right? They teach us that in history. And so, learn how to forgive yourself. That was my mental health minute today, is just kind of look at yourself and just know that that's okay, and say, I forgive others who maybe wronged me, and I forgive myself, for maybe some of those situations that have been bothering you. And just know that that's okay. All this kind of groups and ties in together with the mental pain that I've been talking about, because, it can be consuming. And if you're having a lot of issues and problems, and I know, we just finished January, we're into February now, and, spring's coming, and I don't know, I do know why, but I'm not going to jump into it. But, spring sometimes for a lot of people can be a very hard time for them mentally, and suicide rates tend to go up in the spring. And I think it's because it's the change, right? We've gone through winter, and now the spring's, everybody's saying it's being reborn anew with, plants growing, trees leafing out, all that. I think if your headspace isn't right, I think that can be really stressful for a lot of people. And I know that from experience. I know you see things changing. It's not going gray and gloom, and slowly it's going to turn to, green with flowers and things like that. And if you're depressed or if you're having issues, that can be very stressful. And I understand that because I went through that. And I know what that is like. And so, I just hope that maybe this spring, we're in February now, in a couple of weeks, we'll be hitting March, it'll be spring, not too long. And I'm hoping for my listeners out there who maybe is dreading the spring, that maybe you can find inside yourself to forgive yourself, to let maybe your pride down some and go and ask for help. Don't be ashamed or ashamed for asking for help or needing help, because we all need help, at all times. And, I'm not going to dive in that tonight, but later on in the show, what I'm going to talk about is something that I'm going to talk about next week, because I think that's also plays important. And that's more for the men who listen to the show, the program, because it was just an interesting article that I saw, and then a video that I saw on Instagram. And it's about, men and how men perceive how they look, both physical wise, to the other sex. And so I just thought that was interesting how the study went about on how, men can have body image issues just the same as women, and how that can play a role both in men's mental health also. And so that's a subject that I'll probably maybe jump in next week. I know that throughout my lifetime, I have dealt with that. And I'll share some photos and other things with that. And we'll dive into that next week. But, so just important to, remember to forgive yourself and forgive others. And really what I would like, for my listeners, you can throw comments down there and let me know if I'm base nut or off base here with this on Facebook. But, it's a journey that we're all taking here together with Mental Health Warrior. I feel that, it's important to do these shows and to come up with, content and things that I think that's important to talk about, because, it helps the community in large. I want to help every veteran out there, every service member, every family member, anybody who's listening to this program, either here on the podcast, on Facebook, on Reese Across America Radio. I just want them to be able to ask for help. And, it mentally drains on me. There's days where it's hard for me to, do the show, but I think it's very important, and that I do the show and I talk about the things I talk about, whether it bothers me or not. I'll learn to deal with that. And I have a group of friends I can talk to, and I have my Facebook family, my IG family, and my Twitter family, and True Social and all that I can talk to and look to their comments and things like that, because I think it's important that we all realize that we all are community here, and together is the only way that we can help fight this mental health issue that we're having. Not only for adults, children are affected by it too. It can be very devastating to families. And I had several friends on the show that have had, children that completed suicide, and so that's very hard. And so, as we go through, this time of change, also, just realize that children can be going through the same thing also. They can be having bad days at school. They can get frustrated about, this, that, and the other. I know Lloyd was frustrated the other day with some things at school, and we had to talk about that. And of course, if you're a single parent, everybody knows, I'm a single parent right now. So it's just me, Lloyd, alone in the house, and that has its own struggles and stresses along with it, as any single person who is raising a child will attest to that. And it makes it hard. But, we get by and we do things that are a lot of fun. Last night, we were up late. We drove out to a very dark spot to look for the green comet. I think we saw it for a second. If you don't know anything about the green comet flew by the Earth in 50,000 years ago. So 50,000 years ago, the mammoths were rolling the Earth, the saber-tooth tigers were around, and Neanderthals were there, which I have quite a high Neanderthal DNA in my body from my DNA test. Anyway, so it was kind of neat to try to go and see that. We're going to try and see it on Friday. I think all this month you can see that. You can Google the green comet. But that was just something fun for us to go out and do, and kind of help him, not think about what went on that day at school. And so it was just, one of the kids were teasing him, uh, and it wasn't nothing serious, and it didn't bother him too much. And I had that talk with him, because I'm type A guy. So and Lloyd dealt with that well. So I just went out and just kind of changed his mind a little bit. And he was a little bit tired today because we were up late last night doing that. But I had a lot of fun. And I think it's important for kids to go out and do things with them. And it's helpful for me. If you saw the post from last Friday, he actually missed school and we went and saw Jurassic Quest here in Chantilly, and that was a lot of fun at the Dulles Expo Center. And that was actually a lot of fun for me. They had the big dinosaur stands. If you've never seen them, you can look on Facebook. And it's just a fun family event to go to. It's self-guided, but they had, blow-ups in the back for kids to play on. They had different size blow-ups for different age kids, which I thought was really nice and ingenious. And then little, raptor show. I posted pictures about it, but it was just something fun to go and do. But as I close out here, it's gonna be a quick show because I have to go and grab Lloyd. But first of all, I want to say thanks to everybody for tuning in. As I dive into mental pain and the kind of effects that it has on the family, and the effects it has on you and me personally too. One things that I deal with, and I'm probably going to dive into this with my guest on February 16th. I want to have Karen back on, who's the developer of EarKick, is, and I've talked with several of my friends who aren't retired, who still work, but are teleworking. And it's amazing how teleworking is great, but then you kind of miss the social aspect of it. And, this is one of the things that I've struggled with since I retired is, I don't have a lot of social interaction. There's a lot of days that I don't talk to anybody other than Lloyd, so I have very limited social interactions. And that's, one of the things that yoga has been helpful for me is to allow me to go out and have that social interactions that I just don't have. And it's not that I don't want it. It's just, I don't go to work every day, so I don't see people all the time. And so I kind of lost that identity to myself. And I think for a lot of people who, you don't necessarily have to be retired or disabled or something like that going on. I think that loneliness or that not having that connection, I think can also affect you too, and kind of play into your mental pain also. I know there's sometimes that it affects me. Of course I talk to my family. I talk to my brother almost every day, but it's not the same when you physically go and see people and things. And so, one thing my life coach told me a couple weeks ago is, I needed to kind of work on that again. And so that's one things that Cliff Bauman, right? I said, this is, I don't do New Year's resolutions, but one thing I'm going to do is try to do something different that I didn't do last year, small, right? And so I say this all the time. Don't make big promises to yourself because you're setting yourself up for failure. Make little promises, right? And so one of the things that I've been doing is making myself more social. I hope now with COVID going away that maybe I can go out and do some more speaking events because I really enjoyed those. And so that's why I enjoy yoga, but I also make a point to visit with people after yoga, not just run out, after the class is over like I used to do. So now I just take a moment to kind of visit and ask how, everybody's day going and kind of get to know them a little bit more and talk about myself. And so to me, that's really has helped me mentally a lot too. Just to take that couple minutes and get that interaction that I normally don't get. So at least I know 3 days a week that I'm talking to, some people I see on a regular basis at yoga and some strangers that come into the class. And so that really kind of helps me mentally stay focused and stuff. And then of course I have the VTT family, and everybody else that's around me that I can always call and talk to. But then that just gives me that, that eye to eye contact that I think is so important. And so if you are, kind of in that space, like I just talked about, try to make an effort to go out and maybe talk to people. When Lloyd would go to his Taekwondo, I would drop him off and just go sit in the truck until he was done. Unless if he was doing something important, I would go in and watch him. But as soon as he was done with that, I would go back out to the vehicle. And so what I do now, I just sit in there and visit with the other parents where I didn't do that before. And so that's something else I did change. Lloyd does Taekwondo on Friday and Saturdays. He does 2 classes on Saturdays. And so that, I just started doing that, and that's really kind of helped. But that's just something small that I did to kind of change my perspective and stuff, and try to do that. This week I challenge you to make a new friend, right? Uh, and maybe go and do something similar like I did, where you just go out and a place where you're not normally social, maybe, or a little bit more social. Or, I used to eat lunch when I was working. I would eat lunch at my desk. I wouldn't go down the cafeteria and eat with other people. But I soon stopped doing that and started going down and having lunch with my other workmates, because it was just a fun way to connect and visit with people. Not all days I could do that, but I started doing that on most days. And really that just kind of changed the whole work environment. And so maybe that's something you can do. Just go and join your work buddies at work and have lunch with them. Or we used to go out and have lunch every now and then. That's always a good team building event to have, and something fun to do. And there's a couple of people I met with car shows that I'm going to reach out to probably here next week or so and see if they want to meet up for lunch. The car show season's going to start back up again. So I'm going to have to get working on the Mustang and get it ready for that. But hey, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Once again, I'm super excited about the Mental Health Warrior podcast is now going to be on Reach Across America Radio on Fridays at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 10 p.m. Eastern time. Remember, you can find the Reach Across America Radio on iHeartRadio app, the Audacity app, and the TuneIn app. Be sure to watch Reach Across America Radio and the Mental Health Warrior podcast. And just know that that's going to be a repeat of today's show. But they're going to run a couple behind because I'm kind of getting the show lined up right now and kind of help it flow for my new viewers. So if you are listening on the iHeartRadio, I'm going to say appreciate you listening to the radio program. Please, if you would like to get a Mental Health Warrior t-shirt, I have my t-shirts available on veteranstrashtalk.com. You can go out there, use the promo code CB2022 to save your 10% on your whole order. Not just on the t-shirts, we have a lot of great merchandise out there. But one thing I do have on the back of my t-shirt is I have the In Crisis number, the text home 741-741 to speak to a counselor. You do not have to be in the military. You can be of any age to text that number and you can speak to a licensed counselor. And I think that's really important. If you do have a family or friend who has gone silent, who has kind of changed in their attitude a little bit, they may not be suicidal. They just may be going through a bad time in their life or having a little stress. Please reach out to them and talk to them. Give them a call, give them a text. Hey, if they used to play video games with you, get them on the video game. Chat with them on the video game while you're playing. It's amazing the kind of conversations you can have while you're running through a mission on Destiny. Always looking for somebody. We got a team of 3 right now, maybe 4. We're trying to get 2 more players together so we can go run a raid mission. If you play Destiny 2, you know what that is. I got to get some good gear for that. But hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. I truly hope that you guys have a blessed week. And I hope that everything that you're going through will soon pass and your day will become brighter and shinier. And everything will just, turn better for you. I truly wish that upon everybody who listens to my show. And, I'm super excited about the opportunity with Reach Across America being broadcasting over the radio now. And thank you for tuning in. And everybody have a great evening and a great weekend. And be sure and check out the show on VTT this Saturday. It's really going to be a great, awesome show. And everybody take care. Talk to you later.